Hey, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, and today we're going to talk about how to form an S corporation in California step by step. So in this video, I'm going to go through the exact steps of forming a corporation in California and then making the S Corp election with the IRS. To form the corporation in California, you go to the website for the Secretary of State of California. One great thing that we have now in California is you can form corporations online. So you go to the website for the Secretary of State of California and you go to the online filing section. In this online filing section, you can file online and also do order things and all kinds of other stuff. You can form LLCs. You can also form corporations. So here we're going to form a corporation. You don't form an S Corp. It's not a special thing with the Secretary of State. You just form a generic corporation and then you elect S Corp with the IRS later. So the first thing they tell you is that it's going to cost $100 and there's a $5 certified copy fee, which I recommend that you do. You're accepting the terms of service. You can read these if you want. And it's warning you about the $800 minimum franchise fee. So the first thing you're going to do is the corporate purpose statement and name. There's a generic purpose statement that cannot be changed for corporations. It's just saying you can do any lawful act or activity for which a corporation may be formed. The important thing here is if you are forming a corporation so you can practice a licensed profession like a lawyer or a doctor, but it could also be there's a big list of various other licensed professions. You form a professional corporation, not a regular corporation. This is just a regular corporation. Now you're going to put in the corporate name. And here I'm going to put in, I'm making up a name. So the next screen is your business address. This is a street address for your company. So if you're working from home and your street address is your house, this information you put here is going to be on the public record in a searchable database. So you may or may not want that. If you don't want to use your home address, a P.O. box is not going to work here. You have to have some physical location address. You could use a co-working space. You could also use, for some registered agents, they let you use their address here. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But let's just say I'm putting in a address where I have an office. This is not my actual address. I'm just using a placeholder. California, 94110. That's not our actual zip code for that place. Okay. Is the initial mailing address of the corporation the same as the initial street address? Here's where you could put the P.O. box. I'm not going to, but to give you an example, if you put no here, then you can put in whatever the actual mailing address is. We're just going to say yes to make it simple. Now you have to put in who is your agent for service of process, your registered agent. A registered agent is a person or a company that can accept legal documents on the behalf, on your behalf of your company. This rarely happens, but it's something that you're required to have on file. You can do it yourself. You can be your own registered agent, not the company, but you, human person, can be. But that means that your physical location address is public. For some of my clients, it's totally fine. They have an office or some store location. But for other people, they work from home and they don't want this address public. So then they use another registered agent. Could be a person, it could be your accountant or something like that, but it can also be a service that just provides this. Most of my clients who do this will use Northwest Registered Agent Service. That's $125 a year. There are other registered agent services that are less money and or more money. Sometimes wherever you have a mailbox may provide this service, or if you're renting out space in a co-working space, they may provide this service. So make sure that you're not already getting this as a benefit of some other service that you have. One of the great things about Northwest Registered Agent Services is they let you use that address as the location address for your filings with the state of California. So here we're going to put Northwest Registered Agent. Don't just select it here unless you first go to their website and sign up and pay for it. Now we're going to have to put in the number of shares of the corporation. You don't want to put just a few. You don't want to put 1 or 10 or something like that, because even if you're the only owner or there's just 2 of you or something like that right now, you may want to bring in other owners. Who knows what you're going to want to do with this corporation someday. You may sell it. So you want to put a large number here so you can later issue more shares to more people. So a lot of times I just put 10,000 shares, and I may only issue 100 or 1,000 to the initial person. The idea is you want to have a large enough number so later on you can issue more shares and divide up the business differently. The filing date. Most of the time, you're just going to have the filing date be the current date. But if it's really close to the end of the calendar year, so it's sometime in December, you may want to put January 1st as your filing date, especially if you're not actually ready to start the business and help clients or provide services or sell products. And the reason is that in California, there's an $800 a year minimum franchise fee. It's a tax you have to pay to California, even if your business makes absolutely no money for an LLC or a corporation. But S Corps, and also recently now LLCs, the first year you're in business, you don't have to pay the $800. Not the first 12 months, the first calendar year. So if you form a corporation on December 1st, your free year is that month of December. If you form it on January 1st, your free year is that whole entire new year. So if you're really close to the end of the year, I recommend putting January 1st. Otherwise, just go ahead and put the current filing date. Next, it gives you a review of everything you already put in, so you can make sure you didn't spell anything wrong or have a typo. And now you're going to name the incorporator. The incorporator is the human person who is filling out this form. It does not mean that you own the corporation. It doesn't mean you have any liability for what the corporation does. It just means you're the human filing this form and that you're saying everything in here is correct to the best of your ability. So I'm checking this box as the person who's forming this. I'm putting in my name and putting in my email. This email is here so you can get the forms when they're accepted. The last screen is the payment. So the filing fee for a corporation in California is currently $100, but then they have this extra $5 certification fee. You want this. You want a certified copy because you may need to use it with the bank and other people. You put in your credit card number and you go ahead and file this. Obviously, I'm not going to submit this right now. How long is it going to take for them to review? So let's go figure out that question. If you select business here, it's going to open up a new screen where you can click on the current processing dates for business filings. Today is September 28th when I'm recording this. So under corporate filings, which is what you're doing, under formations and registrations, which is what you're doing, you filing it online, they are 4 days behind, which is great. 4 or 5 days, I would say, is fairly good and typical. Sometimes they're a couple weeks behind. There's a lot of people who form corporations right around the first of the year, so sometimes they can get really behind in that. You'll get, unless you mess something up in the filing, you'll get the date you actually filed it, even if it takes them 2 weeks to process. But just be aware that it takes them time. Online filing is almost always going to be faster. You can see that if you file it in person or by mail, they're still processing things from 3 more days before the 24th. So the best way to file it is almost always going to be filing online because you're doing all the typing. Someone else doesn't have to type it. And because the online form checks some of the information that you submit so they know that the information is correct, especially like the registered agent and things like that. So I highly recommend doing online filing if you have a way to use a credit card to pay the fee. But you are not done. You do not have an S corporation yet. You just have a regular corporation. So what do you need to do next? The next thing you need to do is get your EIN. I've already recorded a video about getting EINs. You can check that out. But hopefully you'll be able to get your EIN online. I say hopefully because sometimes people have trouble doing this. If you have to put in your legal name and your social security number as the responsible party for your corporation in the filing. And so those have to match up. You either have to have a social security number or ITIN. And if that doesn't match up, then you'll have to file it via fax or mail, and that will take a really long time. Otherwise, you'll get an instant result for getting your EIN here. The next thing you need to do after you have your EIN, which hopefully was instantaneous, is file the form to be a S corporation as opposed to a regular corporation, which is a C corporation. You file that with the IRS. So we go to the page on the IRS's website about S corporations. It gives you a bunch of information. It tells you that you have to meet certain qualifications to be an S corporation. The biggest thing here that comes up for my clients is that you have to either be a U.S. citizen or a legal resident. If you are not a U.S. citizen and you reside outside the United States, you're not a legal resident in the United States, you cannot, and you own shares in this corporation, you cannot be an S Corp. That's just the rule. I don't know why. It just is like that. So the form you have to file with the IRS to be an S Corp is the form 2553. This is a PDF form. It's not really online filing. You have to fill out a PDF and fax it in. You can mail it also, but I highly recommend faxing it because it will get processed faster because you don't have to deal with the mail. So what does this form have in it? You're going to put in the name of the corporation. So we'd have Potts Weinstein Media Inc. We'd have the EIN that we just got, which is going to be a number like 46123, like it's going to be a number like that. The street, the date you incorporated, which is 9/28/2021. I'm assuming this got accepted. The state of incorporation is California. Your city, state, zip. I'm just going to skip that for right now. The election is to be effective tax year beginning. So this I put in 9/28/2021. Most of the time, if you form a corporation and you immediately want to be an S Corp, then you're going to put in the date you formed it here. But occasionally you're going to form an LLC or you're going to form a regular corporation and you're going to change the tax status somewhere along the line. So in that case, you're going to put in probably January 1st of that year where you want the tax status to be different. Most of the time you're going to put this date. Selected tax year, usually it's going to be calendar year, but occasionally people have different fiscal years. The name and title of the officer or legal representative who the IRS may call for more information. So some human person has to be the contact person for the IRS. So here I'm putting me, and then I'm going to put my phone number. If you're filing this form late, so more than 45 days from when you formed it, the corporation, then you have to explain that here. This is one of the places where you're going to sign, and you're going to be signing here as the officer. So I may be the president or the CEO or whatever of the corporation, and then you date it. This next page is where the owners, the shareholders of the corporation have to be personally listed, and each of them have to sign to agree to this. So here I would be putting, and then I put my address here. I'm going to be signing and dating it. If I'm the only owner, then it's 100% of the shares. I acquired it the date I formed, so 9/28/21. My social security number, obviously I'm not going to type that for you, but you have to give the social security number of each person who owns this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's obviously not my social security number. And then when does my tax year end? As a human person, my tax year ends at the end of the year. So 12/31, month and day. Most of the other stuff in this form is not going to apply to most people, but occasionally it will. If you are confused about that, you'd have to talk to your tax person or your attorney who's helping you. So you also need to sign here. So on this form, you're signing as the officer, the president or CEO or whatever you are, and then you're also signing as the shareholder here and date it. Then I highly recommend you fax this in instead of mailing because it'll get processed faster. It's still going to take a while. It might take months to get it processed. And then you just act as if your business is an S corporation and fix any problem with the filing later if needs be. Now, there's a lot of other stuff you have to do to set up a corporation. You're going to need bylaws, you're going to need minutes, you're going to need those actual shares that you're going to be issuing, just other filings to do, business license, all that kind of stuff. But these are the initial documents you need so your corporation exists and so it is a S corporation. If you have any questions about what I've talked about today, feel free to ask them down in the comments and I'll try to point you in the right direction. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful. And if you like any more information about running or starting a small business, especially the legal questions, go ahead and subscribe. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.